Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning to Dal and good morning to Susie so far. Good to have you guys here. Good morning to Sheila as well. Good morning to Sheila. I was reminded that I haven't done this for a while. So, the official start of class. So, if anyone shows up after the bell is rung, that means that you're officially late and you've got to go to one of the moderators, one of the leadership team members, and get a late pass so you don't have to go to summer school. Yeah, no one wants to go to summer school. Although I had some classmates that really enjoyed school a lot. There was something wrong with them. And they would actually electively take summer school on so that they could get extra credits and take classes they otherwise couldn't take during the school year. I always wondered if there was something off about them just a little bit, loving school that much. But oh well, everybody rolls differently, don't they? Good morning to Beth as well, and good morning to Al Koss. I think I said good morning to Candido already. Good morning to Candido. And Joelle, good morning to Joelle. And Joelle is actually the one that sent this machine from California that we're going to be unboxing today. I'm just going to do something real quick before I present that machine as the mystery machine that we're going to unbox today. And I'll give you some really good clues so you can try to guess what machine Joelle sent to the workshop. And good morning to Mesa Group as well. And hello to Renee. And we've had a couple of Renees. I believe that's my friend Renee that is from Oconto, Wisconsin. As a matter of fact, I just saw her. If that is her, I just saw her at the restaurant as I was getting ready to race back here and get set up for this live stream. So I'm going to let everybody start to greet everyone else. And I'll kind of explain what I'm doing with these three machines right here on the workbench. I just wanted to give you a glimpse into a project I just finished that I'll be presenting on Tuesday morning. And that's just off camera over here. I'll bring it into the shot shortly. And a project that's coming up very next, this one here, and then a potential machine that will go up for sale that is from my personal collection, a really rare one that I had never seen before. So it'll be fun to take this cover off and show you what's underneath this cover so you can get a glimpse of this machine as well. All right, let me get this ball rolling. Get this ball rolling here. So the first machine, since it's the most easy for me to reach, is going to be this machine right over here. I'll just change my camera angle just slightly. And on the last live stream, those of you that were there, you know that near the end of the live stream, due to a YouTube glitch, my video went out. The live chat stayed active, and people, I don't think they could hear anything either. So the video and the audio went out, but the live chat stayed active as if the live stream was still rolling. If that glitch happens again today, I'm going to go ahead and restart another live stream. It'll be a separate live stream. So just watch for that in case that YouTube glitch pops up again. And I Googled it trying to get an answer as to, is there anything I'm doing wrong? Is there anything that I could do to prevent it? And apparently Let me change the camera shot here. Apparently there's others having the same issue where in the midst of doing a live stream, all of a sudden the screen just goes black. The screen goes black and apparently cuts out the audio as well. And there's no one out there with a clear answer as to what's happening apart from it's a platform issue with YouTube. It's not my network. I've got a 5G network that drives these live streams, so it's lightning fast. And also, I've got a very fast computer as well. Well, it was fast when I bought it. It's got an i5 processor, which is apparently pretty doggone quick. So between my internet being lightning fast, having a really fast computer as well, it falls back on YouTube. So hopefully YouTube and their engineers and their experts can figure out why are YouTubers that are live streaming, why are they all of a sudden experiencing this problem with a black screen? It just happens. And I even tried unplugging the camera, plugging it back in to see if it would somehow bring up the video feed again. It won't work. So if that happens, I'll just end the current live stream and I'll start a new live stream. So just kind of, pivot with me if you would. Hopefully it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's been happening more frequently. Okay. So let's focus on these three machines on the workbench real quick. I'll kind of tell you the story on them a little bit and introduce them. And then we're going to shift over to Joelle's mystery machine from Bakersfield. I think it's Bakersfield, California, that she and her family, and Joelle can probably give you a lot better understanding as to how this project came together. But the whole family is involved in this project. They've all contributed something towards this restorative project. They all have skin in the game. They all are excited and passionate about wanting to see this machine brought back to life and this machine be running at the top of its game. And with Workshop Magic, we can't miss, right? We can't miss. So it'll be great to give you some really good clues. Again, Joelle, I've asked Joelle to be sworn to secrecy. So don't go to Joelle and say, hey, what did you send Scott? Or, type in the live chat, hey, give us some clues, Joelle. I'm going to give all the clues. And then Joelle can, as you're throwing guesses out there, she as the owner can step forward and say, no, you guys are cold. You're really cold. You're way off the mark. You're not even in the ballpark. And that'll be kind of fun. And then eventually we'll get the machine unveiled and then you'll see what Joelle sent to the workshop. Okay. I'm going to keep peeking over at the laptop just to make sure that the screen doesn't go black. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed that we have a problem-free live stream today. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Yeah. And I'm going to shut off the heater. I can feel it as I'm kneeling down to get in the camera shot. It's like cooking me. Okay, my right side is done. I'm going to turn over to the other side now so that I don't overcook. Yeah. All right. So I just kicked the heater down a little bit. We'll see if there's anybody else I want to say hello to real quick. And we'll keep on marching forward. So I think I've said hello to everyone. No, I didn't. I didn't say hello to our other Susie yet. And I think our other Susie, who originally we thought she was from Italy, shared where she was the last time. I might have missed that. So welcome to the other Susie as well. Welcome to Aaron Allen. Aaron Allen is a dear friend of mine and also a customer that has sent me two of her machines already, a Swedish Beauty and then also a Japanese clone. And I hope she's enjoying those machines out in Vermont, I believe, right? You're from, why can I never remember where Aaron Allen is from? I know it's upper East Coast. I want to say Vermont. I think I nailed it this time. I hope I did. I hope I did. Yes, Vermont. Ha ha! Yes. I finally know where Erin lives. Otherwise, I keep moving her around the country. Yes, this week, Erin Allen is out in California. No, she's down in New Mexico. She's over in Europe now. No, she's not. She's in Vermont. Get it right, Scott. Get it right. Jiminy crickets, man. So first of all, this machine over here, This is from my personal collection. I've had it quite a while. And I'm going to ask for your help in doing some research on it so that the next live stream you can circle back, and if you have more information you can share about this very early version of a VS machine that uses a vibrating shuttle, aka VS. I would love to get more information on this machine. I already have a lot of this information, but I'd love to involve you in the discovery and research process. So I'm going to take the cover off and give you a pre-glimpse of this machine that you've not seen before. At least I don't think you have. Oops, I just almost knocked my car down there. So a lot of us know from the live streams that I've done, a lot of us know that if you can see it in the shot, and I actually have it turned the wrong way. I think I had planned on orientating it a different way, and I never got it turned back around. All right, now I have it facing the way I had intended to face it in the first place. There we go. So if you can see in the shot, this is a free Westinghouse machine. Most of you know that before they started making sewing machines, they were the go-to source for a lot of manufacturers as far as motors. They were making great motors. They were making a limited number of lighting systems as well for sewing machines, but they were best known for motors. And they would make motors for a variety of different companies, including Husqvarna Viking. I showed you that in one of the videos where Husqvarna Viking has in their machines a free Westinghouse motor that was actually installed in Sweden, and it carries the same amperage by rating as the original Viking motor. So it's going to be a 1.5 amp motor. A lot of power in those motors. And I've done a little bit of personal testing with the free Westinghouse 1.5 amp versus the closed case and then the open case Swedish motors. And I'll tell you one thing, free Westinghouse knew how to build a very, very good motor. They definitely did. And obviously the roots of free Westinghouse go all the way back to the Free Sewing Machine Company. Free Sewing Machine Company was one of the original makers of sewing machines going way back in the day. And they were founded, if I remember correctly, actually, you know what? Before I share that information, let me ask any of you, do any of you know any information about the roots of Free Westinghouse as it relates to the Free Sewing Machine Company? Where were they established? When were they established? And what else can you share with us about that company that this machine came out of the wellspring of? This machine right here. And this is obviously a very early 1900 free Westinghouse machine. It's going to have the vibrating shuttle. It's also, and maybe that's part of the reason I had it facing the other way, it has the coolest light system where instead of a switch or a toggle switch or something like that, or any other way to turn the light on, it has an old-fashioned little lamp cord that you actually pull down to turn the light on. And it may be kind of hard to show that to you unless I pick it up again and turn it around again to show you the back side of it. Then you might be able to see the light just a little bit better. But here you can see the back side of this free Westinghouse machine, which has kind of a built-in potted style motor, but the direct drive is going to be a friction wheel instead of say a direct worm gear to worm gear type drive like you would see on the Slant-O-Matic machines and other machines like that. So this is the old-fashioned light right here that has kind of the metal stint that goes across, and then to turn it on, you pull this little cord right here with this little ball on it, almost like you would on an old-fashioned lamp. And when you pull it down, the light comes on straight away. So I think it's just a fabulous machine. I've had it in my collection for probably almost 20 years. And as I'm taking steps towards trying to downsize my collection a little bit, I'm going to be eventually getting this on the workbench, take it through my intense process, probably about 15 to 20 hours of adjustments, servicing, cleaning, etc. And then you might see this pop up on Facebook for sale. But this is the only of its kind that I've ever seen. This style, this very, very early vibrating shuttle, free Westinghouse style machine. especially with this very, very unique and rare pull cord type light that is built into the machine. So this will be a fun machine to eventually present and then to offer for sale. And most of you know, I get contacted all the time. Those that have served with me on Facebook could attest to the fact I get inquiries all the time, every week, with people wanting to know, where are my machines for sale? They're the best in the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have a place like that. I entertain people over the phone. I figure out what kind of sewing they're looking to do, what their goals are for the machine. And then I reach into my personal collection and I pull out the perfect machine to meet their specific needs. That's the way I work. That's the way I've always worked. But with this particular one here, I think I may throw it up on Facebook and offer it for sale. But I wanted to show it to you. I just think it's a spectacular machine. The filigree work on it as well is just gorgeous. You probably can't see it in the shot, but it's got a kind of a pearlized green on top, almost like the Tiffany pattern, but it's different. And it's got a beautiful centerpiece decal as well. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous machine for someone to potentially add to their collection. So it'll be a lot of fun to eventually show this one and to offer it for sale. And I don't know, I may convert it. Right now it's set up with only the electric motor that's built into the machine. I might look at also adding a secondary source of locomotion if someone's off the grid, where maybe they could turn it with a hand crank as well. But that'll require a little bit of extra steps, because right now it's not pre-drilled with a threading point to mount a motor, a hand crank motor turn. So yeah, I better drink some Diet Coke. It's still early. It's even earlier for Joelle out in California, 2 hours earlier, I believe. So let me move this one out of the way and kind of keep watch for this one. And if you're a fan of free Westinghouse machines, as I am, you may want to keep an eye on this one, because if it goes up for sale, most often when I offer a machine for sale, which is very, very rare, they go very quickly. All right, so let's get this covered back. And you probably couldn't see it in the shot either, but it has a spoked wheel like the other machine I'm about to show you, but it's an oversized spoke wheel on this free Westinghouse. It's probably about 12% larger than a standard spoke wheel, which I think is also really cool. Okay, almost got it. Okay, I think I got it. Yep, got her. All right, let me move this to the side. So now this next machine, I'm just going to kind of do a pre-introduction so you can get a glimpse of this one. And I'm guessing most of you can see the front of it. It's embossed very clearly with what model it is. But if you can look across the top of the pillar, which is significantly wider because it's got dual cleated belts. And if you didn't know it, each one of those cleated belts has 100 cleats on it. That's the wonder of Western Germany engineering, isn't it? And this particular one actually was dropped off at the workshop by Scott and Tennille. And they were originally out in Ohio. And Scott jumped in he's got a tiny little car. And he and his wife are both physician assistants. And so he drives out from Ohio all the way to the workshop. And he brings this machine and 2 others that he wants to have service, repaired, and restored. Then they end up getting another job offer. Apparently, PAs are in short supply and in great demand. So Scott and Tennille then move all the way from Ohio out to Oregon. And Tennille followed up with me about a month or so ago, and she said, I know you're busy, but I would like to see if you can expedite the Pfaff 130, because I've got some projects coming up when I'm not working as a physician assistant, and I would love to be able to use that machine. So this machine is going to be next on the other workbench, and I'm going to begin getting this ready, and then eventually you'll see this live stream. But what I was leading up to is the pillar area on top of this machine. If I kind of lean it towards the camera a little bit, The pillar area up here is significantly wider than a standard Model 130 that Pfaff would have introduced as their very first zigzag sewing machine. Does anyone know what year Pfaff introduced the Model 130 that this machine and others grew out of? What year was that when they introduced their very first zigzag sewing machine in the form of the Model 130? And I'll look at the live chat real quick while you're admiring this great machine that started out in Ohio and will eventually be heading out to Oregon to Scott and to Neil out there. Yeah, it is a beefy machine. I don't know what the weight of this is, but it's going to be real close to 50 pounds. One of the heavier machines. One of the heavier machines for sure. So we're getting some guesses as far as the date. When did Pfaff come out with their very first official zigzag sewing machine in the form of the Model 130? It looks like Mesa Group said 1939. Emma is saying 1932. Susie is saying 1932. I say it all the time. You guys and gals that are in this classroom are the smartest people that I've had the privilege to work with. You're knowledgeable, you're passionate, but in this instance, all of you are off by about 10 years. And Beth said 1937. And that's also incorrect. The Pfaff 130 was introduced by Pfaff Company as their first zigzag sewing machine right around 1922. 1922. So those of you that were in the 1930s, you were really close, but you were off just a little bit. They introduced that machine in follow-up to their torpedo style machine that came out just a couple years earlier in 1920. And the torpedo style machine that they had that was more of a 3/4 size machine was a hand crank style. And they started to migrate more and more towards the idea of we want to electrify our machines and we want to give them greater capabilities than straight stitching. So they developed the Class 130. And the 130, again, was introduced in 1922 to be followed by some of the lightweight aluminum-based machines that Pfaff was making at the time. And some of those were still popular long after these other machines rolled out of the factory. And then they came out with, shortly after that, the automatic stitching machines that you've seen me present several times, the 332s. And the 260s and other ones like that. And then there were certainly other models that followed those automatic machines as well. And just an incredible evolution of technology. And Pfaff was always ahead, for the most part, of the other manufacturers, with the exception of the Swiss. We talked about that the last time, and I talked about it on Facebook, where the Swiss sometimes were a little bit more ahead of the game on certain models and certain features than even the Germans, which is pretty crazy. So if the question comes up again, the original Class 130 was introduced in what year as the first official zigzag sewing machine of the Pfaff Sewing Machine Company? What year was that again? Just to see if you were paying attention. Yep. Exactly right. Susie and Emma are reminding us 1922. So that was a huge deal, wasn't it? That was a huge deal when Pfaff came out with that as a new innovation. And then eventually, as most of you know, they took that 130 model, they expanded the pillar to add a second cleated belt, and then they came up with a subclass of the Dash 6. So this model we're looking at here that eventually is going to be heading back to Oregon is a Pfaff 130-6. And you can tell right away when you look down on the machine, because the pillar to accommodate that second cleated belt is noticeably wider than the standard Model 130 that came out in 1922. And then eventually, as I presented on this channel before, you know that they added what some people call a coffee grinder. I don't know why. they added a rear-mounted embroidery kit to the 130-6s that then opened up the opportunity to do a number of decorative embroidery type stitches. And you've seen those machines presented before. As a matter of fact, Alberto, my dear friend that passed away recently, and his family in appreciation sent me this wonderful gift. It was one of Candido's favorite toy type musical sewing machine things. The family sent this to me as a thank you because I had done a machine for him and also for his sister, and apparently it really just injected the whole house with a sense of joy and a sense of excitement leading up to him passing away. And what do I say? I mean, I was just privileged to be a part of that and to prepare those machines for them down in Texas. Okay, so let me give you some other clues as I move this machine out of the way. Let me give you some other clues. Well, let me do one other thing before I give you clues on what we're going to unbox today. But again, this machine belongs to Tennille and to Scott, our physician assistants. And so eventually, when I live stream this, if you have any medical questions and they're part of the live stream, you can hit them up for some free doctor's information. Yeah, why not? Free is good, right? Okay, so the last machine I wanted to show you real quick, the free Westinghouse machine I showed you is a future machine that I'm going to offer for sale. The Pfaff 130-6 that belongs to Tennille and Scott is the next machine to land on the other workbench that I'm going to be taking through the workshop magic. And this machine just made it through the workshop magic. And also it made it through the paint shop magic as well. The workshop and the paint shop magic for this machine here. And this, if you can see it in the shot, is a beautiful example of the New England Queen rotary machines that National Sewing Machine Company put out. And when it came to the workshop, if you saw any of those pictures on Facebook, it was just a mess. The majority of the decals were missing. There were things broken mechanically, just a variety of different challenges to overcome with this machine. And one by one, I was able to get it going through my funnel. And now it's finally ready to present. And this machine, I'm deciding on how I want to present it on Tuesday morning. This Tuesday morning, I'm going to be presenting this beautiful machine. And I'm either going to hand turn it by hand. I'm going to turn it by hand, or I'm going to set it up with my Husqvarna motor with that long belt, like you've seen me do with some of the light industrial machines that I've taken through the workshop, and I'll power it that way. I'm still deciding on what I want to do, but it's just a spectacular machine. And this machine is going to be heading to Georgia. This machine is going to be heading down to Georgia. I'll just kind of turn it around a couple times so you can kind of see it from different angles. And a lot of these decals I had to hand touch paint in the paint shop because the decals are no longer offered. They're no longer, like some of the decal sets you can buy aftermarket now. These decal sets are no longer available. So a lot of hand touching with the paint brushes down there. And then finally putting about 10 layers of clear coat on it to preserve and protect this machine. And this machine would have been originally set up as a treadle machine. That's how these machines would have been used. And so originally the owner sent this to the workshop Ann Bender sent it to the workshop with an electric motor. And I said to some of you, I think either on Facebook or I said to you through YouTube, I said, the motor just, no matter what I would do to the motor, even if I repainted the case of the motor, it would take away from the natural beauty of what was intended to be a treadle machine. Almost like the Singer 66-1 that I've shown you multiple times on this channel. And also our dear friend Bill O'Rourke has that machine down in Kissimmee, Florida. That's his go-to machine. The 66-1 by Singer was originally built strictly to be a treadle machine. Later, a lot of people did electrify it, but that was not the intent of that machine, built strictly as a treadle. Same thing on this National machine. It was really intended to be a treadle machine. And it's got a really cool clutch release over here, where in most cases on machines, when you release the clutch, the entire balance wheel will turn as you're winding a bobbin. On this one, instead of the entire balance wheel turning, this inside coupler right here is going to move freely, so you can rotate it. So it's just a slightly different approach to, taking the clutch out of commission so you can wind a bobbin on this machine. So watch for this machine on Tuesday morning, probably around 9:30 is what I told Ann down in Georgia. And then I'll get this heading back to her. This is going to be a family heirloom. When she reached out originally about this machine, she said, I have no family heirlooms that I can leave to my children or my grandchildren. And I'd like you to make this. It was kind of cute. She said, I'd like you to make this machine so wonderful, so beautiful, so spectacular that when I'm gone, my kids won't do like a lot of kids do and just get rid of it or sell it at a garage sale. They're going to see the value of it. They're going to look at it and go, I don't know a thing about sewing. I don't know a thing about sewing machines, but it is a spectacular work of art. And so that was really my goal with this project, was to take this machine from ugly or from a beastly look to a beautiful, spectacular look. And hopefully you agree that I was successful in doing that with this classic National sewing machine from the early 1900s. Yeah, beautiful machine. All right, let me move this out of the way too. And now finally, we're going to get to our unboxing. The other thing, and I'll mention it in the, well, I'll just mention it in the video or in the live stream on Tuesday, some of the unique features of this National sewing machine that we're going to be sewing with to this this New England Queen Anne rotary machine on Tuesday. So, all right, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let me give you some clues on what we might be taking out of this box shortly. Let me give you some clues. But before I do that, I will take a quick peek at the live chat. And again, as I know that Susie and others have reminded folks in the audience, if you want to be a part of the live stream by actually calling me, and then I'll put you on speakerphone. I will not show your number. I'll protect your privacy as far as your phone number, etc. But you will be able to make your comment, or you'll be able to ask a question, kind of like the old call-in talk radio programs where people would call in and they'd be on the air and they'd be able to ask their question or make their comment. I want to offer that to all of you as well, to give a different dynamic to live streams, where if you've seen a name pop up in the live chats multiple times and you're just curious about that person, or, it's just kind of a, I wonder what they sound like. I wonder, anything else about them, because they're always in the live streams. This would just give a different dynamic where you'll be able to hear the voice of that person that you constantly see popping up at the live stream. So I'm not forcing anyone to call in, but if you want to do that, I think it'd be really fun. And I know my number's already been posted in the live chat, but again, it's 920-454-0393. Again, I will protect your privacy. I won't show your number, and I'll just let you ask your question or make your comment, and then you can be a part of the live stream in a different dynamic way other than just the live chat, if that makes sense. Okay, so a couple of clues on what we might be unboxing today. Let me give you some clues, and I'll look at the live chat real quick too. Yeah, yeah. A real strong family history with this machine. Originally, Joelle's mom's machine, she bought it brand new. So the provenance of this machine can be tracked to the original owner within Joelle's family, her mom. And Joelle learned how to sew on this machine as well. And it's just a very integral piece of the fabric of this family. It's a very integral piece of the fabric of this family. And that's why the entire family has rallied around this project. It's not just Joelle. Joelle and a number of family members have stepped into this project to support it because they want to preserve this as something special for their family. That's the best of stories to tell when you can track the provenance to that original family member, and then it's passed down through generations. And there's generations yet to come that after I get done with my workshop magic on this machine, they will be able to enjoy this fabulous machine as well. Oh, I didn't realize that Emma stepped away for a second. Welcome back, Emma. Okay. So here's some clues for you all so you can narrow down. And again, Joelle is sworn to secrecy. This is a top secret as to what's in this case until we reveal it. But after I give you some clues, you can throw out guesses, and Joelle can say, "Yeah, you're cold," or "Nope, it's not that," or "Nope, wrong maker," or however she wants to steer you without giving you the answer. I'll leave that to Joelle to kind of lead that discussion as to what we're going to be taking out of this plastic tote that came all the way from Bakersfield, California. At least I think it did. I know it came from California. I'm gonna real quick just double check. Hold on. Yes, I was right. I've got her name revealed here, Joelle, but all the rest of her address and everything, I've got it covered up, obviously, because I don't want any weird stalkers, getting Joelle's address and start sending her flowers and candy and other crazy stuff like that. Yeah, no candy, no flowers, period. All right. All right, some clues for you all. Some clues. Okay, the machine that we're going to unbox today, came out as a model for the first time. In 1968. So the machine that we're going to unveil today that Joelle sent from Bakersfield, California, that her mom bought brand new, that Joelle learned how to sew on, was first introduced in 1968. 1968, okay? The model, let me go back further. Okay, so the model was introduced in 1968. This company that made this machine was first established in 1862. The company that made this machine was established in 1862. The main core production of this company, after it was established in 1862, kicked off full bore, making a variety of different sewing machines right around 1872. So they almost had kind of a 10-year lapse after they were established, where they didn't really kick in full production of machines until almost 10 years later. Okay. What else can I give you without giving too much away? This company that I've described to you that originally was established in 1862 the specific model that we're going to be looking at was introduced right around 1968. This same company had a major milestone of making their 1 millionth sewing machine around 1910. So they're established. They are kind of slow starters, and they get into full production right around 1872. After being established in 1862, they make this cool machine that's inside of the case that Joelle's mom bought brand new right around 1968. And their major milestone of making their 1 millionth machine comes into play. Hank's barking at somebody. Comes into play right around 1910. So those are all the clues I'm going to give you right now. Those are a lot of clues about the company, about the potential model that Joelle sent to the workshop that belonged to her mom, bought it brand new, and Joelle learned how to sew on it. So if I come up with any other clues that's not going to give the store away and make it super easy for you, then I'll go ahead and share some more clues with you. But that'll at least give you a baseline to start with. And it is not, I'll respond to some of the questions unless Joelle would like to. If Joelle wants to respond to some of the guesses, that's totally cool. Yep. Joelle is doing it. Joelle's on it. Yep. Emma B threw out a guess, and Joelle just said, "Nope, cold. You're cold. You're cold, Emma. Sorry." All right. So I'm going to start the process of opening this machine up. If I come up with any other clues, does anyone want me to repeat the clues again so that one of the moderators, one of the leadership team members, can type the clues into the live chat? Would somebody like me to restate the clues that I've given so far again? Okay. Emma's saying repeat. Emma's saying rinse and repeat. Okay. So the company that manufactured this machine was first established around 1862. They had about a 10-year lapse where they really didn't get into full production of sewing machines until about 10 years later in 1872. One of their major milestones was making their 1 millionth sewing machine, 1 millionth sewing machine. And that was celebrated right around 1910. They made their 1 millionth sewing machine. The model specifically in the case here that Joelle's mom bought brand new and that Joelle learned to sew on was first introduced around 1968. 1968 is when this machine was first introduced as far as its class series. I might give you one more clue. One more clue. Let me see here. One of the really cool things about this machine class that we're going to be unboxing today, one super cool thing about it is it had a very, very innovative feature that traditionally was only available to industrial or commercial machines. It had a very unique feature on it that was only at the time available to typically commercial and light industrial machines. I'm not going to tell you what that feature was, or I think I'll give too much away. I'm not going to tell you what that feature is yet, or I might give too much away. Okay. I'll tell you a couple more. You know what? I won't tell you what that is, what I'm referring to, that would have been available mostly on commercial and light industrial machines. But I will tell you this model also had a seam tie-off feature that was automatic. Yeah, I'll stop there. I tend to give too much away. I give too much away. I posted something on Facebook, if you saw it already, with a beautiful lady in a wedding dress, beautiful gal in a wedding dress. And I put down I delineated a variety of different clues as far as what date this photo might have been taken and where the photo may have been taken, its origin. I gave so much away on the very first guess. Someone nailed it. And then another person followed up and nailed it again. So it was like, you made it too easy, Scott. So I'm trying to not make this too easy. Joelle and I are going to make you work a little bit harder to try to guess what maker and what model might be inside of this tote. And I'm not going to respond to any of the guesses. I'm going to leave that up to Joelle. If Joelle isn't sure about how you phrased something or whatever, just text me or call me with the question, and I can try to assist in vetting the accuracy of the guess. But I think Joelle, number one, is a really smart lady, and I think she's got it covered. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to start getting into this case, and we'll start to get closer to the answer as to what the heck is in here. And I tried to create a little bit of drama in the title of this, saying, was it utterly destroyed or did it arrive, in great condition? I worded it differently. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to create a little bit of drama and suspense, because when you're shipping a machine all the way from Bakersfield, California, what distance are we talking about? What distance are we talking about from Bakersfield, California to Oconto, Wisconsin? It's got to be several thousand miles, right? Does anyone want to Google that real quick and type it into the live chat? The distance from Bakersfield, California to Oconto, Wisconsin. How far are we talking? Gives you an idea of what's possible in that long of a journey, right? That long of a journey. That's a real long journey. All right, I'm going to set my phone down, and I'm going to start popping these zip ties, and we'll get closer to the answer as to what is in this case. What did Joelle's mom buy brand new? What did Joelle learn to sew on? And what needs does this machine have as it's coming to the workshop? Maybe Joelle will share once we officially know what machine this is. Joelle maybe can then share some particular concerns or target focus areas that she's hoping that I'll be able to address straight away to get this machine as right as rain, get it sewing spot on again, get it sewing spectacularly. Okay. Yeah. And Susie and Emma are saying around 2,100 miles. Think of how many hands, how many hard floors this tote was tossed onto, beds of trucks, and all the banging around that this tote took, traveling over 2,100 miles. So that again comes back to how we pack a machine is going to decide how well that machine is preserved when it arrives on the other end. Whether we're shipping from California to Wisconsin, or whether we're shipping from Wisconsin to England, or Wisconsin to Switzerland, or anywhere else the machines from this workshop have gone. Oh, Joelle has declared a winner. Joelle has declared a winner. And I think Emma is the one that nailed it, but I don't know if she nailed it specifically enough. If she said the model, but she didn't say the subclass. Yeah, thank you to Beth as well. Beth as well is saying definitely at least 2,000 miles, maybe further. So Joelle is saying that Emma is correct with the 1222, right? But is it a 1222 only? That would be like if we inside of this case, inside of this tote, if we had the same machine that I showed you that belongs to Scott and to Neil, that started in Ohio, came to the workshop, and now is going to be going out to Oregon where they are now. If someone had guessed when we were unboxing that machine, which we didn't have to do because it was dropped off, but if we were unboxing a machine like that and someone guessed Pfaff 130, would that be close enough when in fact it's a Pfaff 130-6? So that's the only thing I'll say, just to challenge the norm here a little bit, of congratulating Emma for saying it's a Pfaff 1222. But is that the whole story, or is it a special subclass within the Pfaff 1222 family? We'll find out soon enough. We'll find out soon enough. Sheila's jumping into it now. I love it. Sheila and Emma are like going toe to toe here. Okay, Scott's messing with us. Scott and Joelle are messing with us. If it's not just a 1222, what could it be? Could it be some other version or some other flavor of the 1222 family? Kind of like when we talk about, the different slantomatics within that family class, where they all have slightly different features and slightly different nomenclature descriptions on the machines, but they all come from the same mama and daddy. So I'll leave that to I'm going to leave that to Joelle again to whittle it down further if she chooses to do that. But I think congratulations to Emma, and also to Sheila as well, for staying in the race. And Joelle is already acknowledging what Sheila typed. So yeah, I mean, the drama is over a little bit. We kind of have an idea now of what we're going to be seeing, won't we? We have a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be seeing. And I can, does anyone want to see a standard Pfaff 1222 that's in my personal collection? I pulled it out and dusted it off a little bit in anticipation of doing this unboxing. And I can either show it to you afterwards, or I can show it to you in advance. And then in your mind, you can compare it to what you see come out of this tote. Should we see it now, or should we wait to see the 1222 that I have in my personal collection that I pulled out as a comparison to Joelle's machine that came from California? I'm going to look at the chat, see what you guys are saying. So I'm getting kind of a mix of input from folks on, but the majority seem to be saying show it now. So I'm going to show you what my 1222 looks like, but it may have some slight differences from Joelle's 1222E that we're going to be opening shortly. And if Joelle, with this being a family machine and having learned to sew on it, it's been in the family a long time. If Joelle wants to share some of the comparative differences between the standard 1222 and the 1222E, that would be super cool. Like I say, sometimes the teacher, always a student, so we can learn from each other. And as I said in a recent live stream, who knows that machine better than the owner? The owner is going to know it. They're going to have the greatest level of intimacy with that sewing machine. So I'm going to slide this over just a little bit, and I'll grab my machine so we can take a look at it. So as you can see on the front of here, this is, in fact, there we go. This is, in fact, the Pfaff 1222 that would have been introduced right around 1968, right? I think that's what I said. Right around 1968, this machine would have come on the scene for the first time. And one of the cool things that it offered that traditionally had never been available to a household type sewing machine before, it would have been more in the industrial class or in the commercial class, was something they called IDT, which was a differential feed. It was one of the earliest versions of the walking foot. Right here you can see on the side of the machine where when you want to engage it, you pull it down like this, and then you have a built-in, the equivalent of a walking foot. It allows for more even feed, and it allows that material to move more smoothly over the feed dogs and underneath the presser foot. When you don't need it and you don't want it to be engaged, you just pull it down and it retracts up out of the way. But traditionally, we have to, if we want to have a walking foot on most sewing machines, we've got to get something like this. This happens to be a Singer style one. We've got to get something like this, and we've got to take off the existing presser foot attachment, and we have to mount this to it and get this over the needle bar. And then when we don't want to use this this walking foot any longer, we then have to take it off again and put the other presser foot attachment back on. So Pfaff, again, being incredibly progressive, decided that they wanted to introduce an option to have a walking foot that was built into the machine. And they called it a differential feed that allowed that material to move more evenly and more freely and more consistently, even with multiple layers. It helped to make sure that it wasn't slipping or sliding. And I've shown you the result of slipping and sliding before. If you're not using something like this, you can have that stitch length set on the longest stitch. But when that material is not being fed evenly, you'll see those stitches getting reduced further and further and further and getting real stubby looking, even though you've got that stitch length cranked all the way up. So Pfaff was way ahead of the game in saying, you don't have to deal with something like this and putting it on and taking it off again. We're going to build it right into the machine. And when you don't want to use it for whatever reason, let's say you're doing free motion quilting or something like that, then just pull it down and it'll retract back up, almost like an auto needle threader. That when you need it, you can pull it down. When you don't need it anymore, you can retract it up into the housing of sorts in the machine. So that was a real big deal. The other thing that this 1222 offered as well is this control lever on the back, and I showed this in another live stream. This control lever on the back gives you needle down, needle up. It also gives you an auto back tracker where to finish off a seam, it will automatically go backwards to lock off that seam so you don't have to do it manually by flipping the machine into reverse. Just a lot of automated things. And then along with that, depending on when the machine was made, either right in 1968 or later, you've got a number of push button, and I showed this recently in another live stream, you've got a number of push button stitches that are built in to the machine that you can select. And then like I showed you on that other live stream, you can go with combinations of these buttons as well and get a whole variety of additional stitch outputs for the machine. I want to say it's close to almost 90 stitches that you can generate through this board of buttons on this machine by combination buttons and otherwise. And I can verify that, but I want to say it's close to 90. It's like 80 to 90 stitches or something like that. And then you've also got this incredible bus style pedal as well that is really easy to get your foot on there. It's not like the little Bakelite Singer button style foot controller where you're kind of having to put on your dancing shoes to try to push that little button down. This one, you can fit your foot on there even if you have bigger feet like me, and it's really easy to operate the machine. And the slightly earlier version of this, and it shares the same manual, you can see that in the shot, was the 1221. So there was a 1221 and a 1222 that came out almost in close immediate succession, and they share the same instruction manual as well. So anyway, this is not about my machine. I'm going to get this out of the way now, but since most of you wanted to see it, now you've seen it, and you'll be able to look at Joelle's when it comes out of the tote and see how is it different, the 1222 from the 1222E. And a lot of these machines are going to share a lot of the same layouts as far as functions of the machine. Okay, back to our unboxing. And I'll just look at the live chat real quick. Oh, and Joelle is saying her foot controller is slightly different than that. Okay. All right. So I don't think there's anything else I have to respond to. If someone is trying to get my attention again, if someone's trying to get my attention and you're asking a question or you want to make a comment and you want to do it by calling in, my phone number has been posted multiple times. Give me a call or send me a text. I'm kind of listening for the phone as I'm presenting this unboxing, and would love to get you on the air live during the live stream to ask your question or make your comment. Again, kind of the old talk radio format. Okay, so let me work on getting these zip ties off. I totally approve of adding these zip ties. I've been doing this with my shipments as well, just to add a little bit more security to them. The only thing I would do for the sake of the postal workers, because these edges on these zip ties can be really sharp. I've actually cut my finger open on them before, is if you're going to ship a machine to the workshop, just to keep our postal workers safe, or if you're shipping by UPS to keep the UPS people safe, or etc., just use a pair of scissors or an X-Acto knife to kind of cut this off, this little tip, and that way no one accidentally gets cut on it, and then takes out the hostility on your package as it's coming to the workshop. They're like, doggone that thing just cut me. I'm going to toss it across the room. What I do is I cut mine off, and then I take an additional step of using a little grinding stone and actually grind it down so that it's flush with here. So it's still secure, but it's not going to potentially, cut somebody or hurt somebody that's handling the package very quickly as they have to, as they're moving the packages through the different channels of the different carriers that move sewing machines for us across the world. So just a quick comment on that. All right, so what do I have here that'll cut that? What do I have? These should probably get the job done. These are my big boy scissors. I get these out when I'm trying to cut something, and I've been really bad with these scissors. I've used them to cut everything from plastic to even metal. So I probably shouldn't be cutting metal with them, but I've done that, truthfully. I've done it more than once. Okay. Give me just a second here. Oh, I forgot to mention one of their unique features. I had that 1222 in front of you just a second ago, and the same would obviously be true of Joelle's 1222E as well, is along with the differential feed, or Pfaff also referred to it as differential feed, or they called it also integrated dual feed. Integrated dual feed, and a lot of people refer to that system as the IDF. The IDF. I wanted to clarify that just so someone doesn't circle back and say, why didn't you mention that? So now I mentioned it. Either differential feed or IDF, which is integrated dual feed. And it's basically the earlier version of a walking foot for the sewing machine. But they also had something else as well, and I did not mention it. They had a little magic black box. Not like a black box in an airplane or something like that, that records the movements of the plane and the settings and the airspeed and all that. And then when a horrific event happens where that plane crashes, then they're looking for the black box, because the black box is going to give them all the data that they need to try to determine why the airplane crashed. The black box inside of the 1222, when it was first introduced, in 1968 did something entirely different. The little black box, what it did is it gave a super boost. It gave a super boost to the needle being able to have greater piercing power. It was almost like a punch up of power that this little black box inside of the 1222 would give the machine, so that it was almost the equivalent of the Italian version of powering and flipping that toggle switch up to give the greater boost to the motor. That's what this little black box did in those earliest versions of the 1222 starting around 1968. And some people, even Pfaff themselves, called electronic trickery. I'm not sure exactly what they meant by that, but it was kind of a mystery box that would give a boost to the machine and give it greater piercing power down at the needle. Yeah, I think I covered it now. That way I don't get any nasty notes or text messages from people in the middle of the night from Germany saying, why didn't you mention about the IDT? You don't mention the IDT. Why not? Because it's not IDT, it's IDF. Hello? Yeah, so many different terms to try to remember when you're on camera. But the short and long of it is the Germans were way ahead of others when it came to addressing the issue of material feed and trying to preserve the integrity of the stitch output by them not getting compressed because the machine would allow the material to slip. So that's really what we need to know about this great innovation that the Pfaff makers really rolled out significantly back in 68 with this model 1222. And I agree with Joelle. It's not really, the 1222E is not really a subclass per se. It's a model. But some people, when you add letters and numbers after it, like a 130-6, they're going to refer to it either as as the submodel description or as a subclass. Because the class of this machine is obviously the 1200 series. The 1200 series was introduced in 1968, and it had a number of different flavors of 1200 class machines that came out in conjunction with that first grand introduction. So, yeah, hopefully that sort of makes sense. Hopefully, sort of. Oh, and hello also to the outboard tinker. The outboard tinker. Yeah. Okay, let's keep marching forward. See if I can't get through these zip ties. These are some heavy duty zip ties too. These scissors have never failed me. I hope they don't. I hope they don't. And it's a lot safer if you're opening a box like this. It's a lot safer to try to cut these with some sort of scissors than an X-Acto knife. An X-Acto knife can slip. And the last thing you need to see on a live stream is me oozing blood and then the screen goes black. Yeah, that would be bad. That would be bad. Let's not have oozing blood. These are really, really good zip ties. These are heavy duty. Mine are a little bit cheaper than this that I use. So I'm having to apply a lot of pressure with these scissors to try to cut through these. So it looks like we made it through all the zip ties. I'm going to go ahead and cut this tape that Joelle put around the case as well as a reinforcement. And we'll finally be a step closer. To seeing how, if in any way, this 1222E differs from the 1222 that I showed you on camera a little bit ago. And again, you can see why I use the packing method and why Joelle very smartly looked at the packing videos and kind of followed suit by using a heavy-duty plastic tote like this, where with all the weather changes we've had going through Wisconsin and a lot of other states as well, where we have a combination of rain and then we have snow and then we have sleet and then we have everything in between. This tote, as it's traveling those 2,100 miles plus from Bakersfield, California to Wisconsin, has survived almost unscathed. Whereas if a cardboard box had been used as the outer shell, a cardboard box would have been exposed to rain and snow and other elements, along with all the handling, and may have had some compromises in it, like we've seen before on live streams, where I'll have a cardboard box arrive with a sewing machine and the pedestal feet have poked their way all the way through the bottom of that cardboard box, and they're literally bouncing across cement floors and metal floors and everything else, potentially ready to get snapped off. It's not as common to see that compromise on a heavy duty tote like this. Plus, it's almost completely waterproof. So if this arrives at the workshop and I'm not here and it sits outside for a couple of hours while I'm visiting clients out in the field or whatever, and it's raining and it's snowing and it's sleeting, the outside of the package is going to be wet, but the contents are going to be preserved and protected on the inside. So I'm still always looking for ways to improve the packing process that I introduced many years ago that people are using around the world now. But at the same time, I think it's pretty doggone good. And it's proven itself in some very difficult circumstances, traveling much greater distances around the world. And all the machines that have been shipped from the workshop have arrived without any damage. Knock on wood. Yeah, all that. So, all right, so let me cut off the rest of these. And we'll finally get this lid off and take a peek inside. And it looks like that Joelle is a pool noodle fan. She is a pool noodle fan, and I'm seeing a lot of pool noodles that I'm going to be able to repurpose for shipping other machines and or shipping this machine back to Bakersfield, California. Set this lid to the side. And you'll notice, I should just show it just for sake of showing it. You'll notice that, shipping a vintage sewing machine these days is not a cheap process. Depending on how you ship it, whether you ship it by USPS or UPS or FedEx, just shipping the machine and then paying the cost of the machine being shipped back again is an investment. And that's where, when I talk to people over the phone, I sometimes have to educate them as to what the expense is involved in preserving a machine that has a family legacy to it. And most families, they don't care. They don't care about the cost ultimately because it's going to be an heirloom. It's going to be a treasured piece of their family history that's going to last for generations. And so they're willing to make the investment. But I do get that occasional person that doesn't have a clue. They're just very passionate about wanting to get the machine into the workshop. The workshop has a world-renowned reputation, and most people, if they are going to take that level of investment, they want to do it at this workshop because they're going to get the best final outcome. Just like you saw with that free Westinghouse machine that I'm going to be presenting on Tuesday, it comes looking like it belongs on the curb, and now it's going to be leaving the workshop after it's live streamed on Tuesday, like it's ready to go to the Smithsonian. And that's really the magic of the workshop. That's the magic of the paint shop. But it is an investment. And I applaud Joelle and her family for stepping alongside each other and sharing the cost of that so that this wonderful Pfaff 1222E can stay in the family for generations and potentially children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren will be able to sit down to the same machine that Joelle's mom started on when she bought it new, the same machine that Joelle learned how to sew on, and then all the generations to follow that are going to sit down to that same machine and be delighted by the majesty of what Pfaff came up with all the way back in 1968. You know, to give you an idea of how far back that is, I was 4 years old. I was 4 years old when the first 1222 rolled across the assembly line over in Germany. I mean, that's a ways back. I feel old now. I feel old. Not that old. All right, let's start to get into this and see what we find. So we've got an extra layer, and again, my impression from my contact with Joelle, we've talked over the phone, we've texted to each other, we've sent messages by Facebook Messenger, we've sent messages in all kinds of ways. She is just a very organized lady that does things in a very specific way. And you can see even here, even though it's got the protection of this heavy duty tote, she doesn't want to leave anything to chance. And so she adds this extra barrier of this heavy foam that's probably going to be around 12 millimeters. So this extra barrier from, I always say on my live streams and on my packing videos, the most dangerous part or compromise for the machine potentially is from an impact from the top or an impact from the bottom. So Joelle heard that loud and clear, and look at the safeguard she's already added in case there was a major catastrophe with this tote. And you know, a huge impact came down on top of her 1222E. This is going to take a lot of that force, All right, let me see how to get into this now. See if there's anything in here that Joel mentioned. Okay, nope. Just the project payment is in here, so I'm going to throw that to the side. Sometimes an owner will enclose a certain note, and if it's relevant, I would read it to you right now. But there is no such note in there. And why would we need a note? Because we have the owner here in the live stream. That's even better than a note, isn't it? All right, so let's start to work around this a little bit. Now I've got to kind of separate these pool noodles. I'm going to separate these pool noodles from the main part. And look at the thickness of those. These are even thicker pool noodles than I typically use. It's going to afford a lot of protection from impact against this machine potentially. A lot of impact. All right, let me throw these to the side. Give me 1 second. I don't know how you can get cut on tape, but I just got cut on tape. So I was pulling that tape out, and in the wintertime, your skin is a lot more dry in a cold environment like Wisconsin. So you can bump up against almost anything when you're in Wisconsin, and it'll break the thin layer of your skin and cause a little bit of bleeding. So I'm just going to quickly throw a Band-Aid on my my thumb so I don't get any blood on the machine. It'll probably stop pretty quick. But I lotion my hands all the time, and I use the lotion that Susie sent me as well. But even with using different lotions and different creams and everything else, in the wintertime, your skin is just really, really vulnerable to getting a skin tear or to getting your skin broken. And as we get older, it's a known fact that as we get older, our skin becomes more thin too, doesn't it? So we're even more prone to get skin tears or to get cuts or something like that as we're working around doing anything, especially with me working with sharp machines and everything else. It's very easy to get cut. Okay, let's pull out the rest of these. And we'll get closer to getting a glimpse of this machine finally. And here's a secondary package right here. And Joelle had already said that the foot controller that I showed, which would be an original one to the 1222, this may be a different flavor and also be original. So, and that's the fact of the matter. We talked about Free Westinghouse supplying a lot of motors. Free Westinghouse would change the look and the design of their motors even as they were supplying to the same manufacturer. So I'll be interested to see what kind of foot controller Joelle's machine has that would have come with the machine, I assume, unless it's been replaced, would have come with the machine when it was brand new. And Joelle, if you already shared it and I missed it, please forgive me. But do you remember what year did your mom originally buy this 1222E? She bought it brand new. What year did your mom buy this machine? If you know, I'd be curious to have you type that into the live chat so we can see. Again, this machine class, the 1200 class, would have been introduced right around 1968. So I'd be curious what year your mom got this machine. So much later, Joelle just typed in there around 1980 to 1981. So this machine would have been much later in the series after the very first class 1200s were introduced in 1968. Almost, what is that, 2 decades plus later that it would have been 68, 78, no, 78. I'm not very good at math. 12 years, about 12 years later. I don't do math anytime, and I especially don't do math early on a Saturday morning. So yeah, over a decade after the class 1200 model was first introduced, Joelle's mom would have purchased this machine new. So they did produce the class 1200 series for a very long time with a variety of different flavors. And I don't know, without researching it, which I didn't have time to do, when the production of the class 1200 would have ended. I would guess sometime in the 1980s. They would have run with this for almost going on 2 decades of production when it was first introduced from 68 until Joelle's mom bought this machine in the early 1980s. So if anyone wants to research real quick as to when the class 1200, the Pfaff class 1200 would have ended production, if there's an official date out there, if anyone wants to research it real quick and type it into the live chat, that would be great. You can become, as I always say, a fellow teacher in sharing that information with us for sure. And again, we can verify it. You know, we always verify our information, trust but verify, like Ronald Reagan. But at the same time, it would be great to know if there was a date out there that we can find that points at when the class 1200 would have ended production. So yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I agree. Someone just typed in the chat, I think it was Candido. Great packing job. Joelle, like I said, she doesn't do anything half step. It's always do it right or don't do it at all. And she has done a brilliant job of safeguarding this family treasure. Brilliant job. Great packing. All right, let me give this a cut real quick. I'm going to go to a little bit more delicate scissors I've shown these to you before. These are the ones that Emma sent me. They're like a surgical scissors, and they kind of point away. So as I'm getting closer to the cord of the foot controller and the foot controller itself, I'm going to use these scissors that Emma sent me, so I'm less likely to damage the foot controller or nick the wiring or anything like that. That is if I can get underneath there. I hope I can. I'm kind of looking ahead as well, just so I can see where the scissors are going. Even though they're pointed away, I'm trying to be extra careful. So yeah, this appears to be a very different foot controller that would have come out with this machine in the 1980s than the earlier version of foot controller that I showed you that's original to my 1222. Isn't this interesting? Just going to see what the plate on the back says. So it says, for use with Pfaff sewing machines only, types 1221 and 1222. So we always talk about foot controllers needing to be fully compatible so that they can not undersupply the motor, or that the motor doesn't demand more than that foot controller can supply, causing the foot controller to overheat. So this is designed with the flexibility of being, you can use this on the earlier 1221 or the 1222 models. So if this plug-in is compatible with my 1222, this should work just as well on my version as it does on Joelle's version, which is kind of neat. Yeah. Now I've got to figure out how to get into this thing. All right, Joelle, how do you open this sucker up? It's like a trick box here almost, isn't it? How do you get this sucker open, or do you open it? I was trying to open it up, but it's a tricky one, isn't it? It kind of looks like this plate should slide off of there. It looks like this should slide off, and then it will reveal the actual pedal presser that you use to control and regulate the sewing machine. But what it is, it's actually built into this base, isn't it? So you just depress it like this, and when you're not depressing it, it's nearly flush with the top of this this foot controller. And it's got some real nice non-skid little pads here on the bottom as well, so that as you put it on a floor, maybe a wood floor, it's less likely to be sliding around. But this was still, even at the time, which is almost shocking to most people, even in the 1980s, as they were still producing different flavors of the Class 1200 in the form of the 1200, in the form of the 1222E. Even then, this foot controller, according to the stamp that's on here, was still being made in Western Germany. And a lot of machine makers by the 1980s, going into the 1990s, they were already shifting production to other places to try to save money. Pfaff stuck it out probably about as long as anyone in maintaining production, even into the 1990s, still making their machines in Western Germany. And some of the later versions that would have followed this one would have been the 14 series, 1400 series, in the form of the 1472, the 1472 CD, which was one of the very last machines made in Western Germany. I'll kind of pull this back a little bit and just show you that plate as well, so you can kind of see it in the shot. So that really, I think that gives the Pfaff sewing machine company bragging rights. Yes, eventually they shifted production going into the 2000s, the year 2000 beyond, but they stuck it out longer than probably any of the manufacturers out there would continue to make their product over there in Western Germany at a much greater expense with a much smaller profit margin, but they didn't care. they didn't ultimately care because they wanted to have that quality control and the quality of engineering being much more predictive when they're making it in their factories over there versus giving it to a third party and then trying to manage the quality through quality assurance and through other channels like that. So I think that's really, I think that gives them bragging rights. All right, let's see if I can get into this last one to reveal the plug. As Candido had said, Joelle did a really good job of packing. Very, very good job of packing. So again, if you look at this foot controller, I'm going to grab the other one real quick. You look at these two foot controllers comparatively, both designed for the 1200 series machines, specifically the 1222s, both of them made in Western Germany, but at different periods of time. This one would have been made earlier in the phase of production following the introduction in 1968. This would have been made almost a decade later, and they made certain changes to it. Here you've got a standard type foot controller. Here you've got a foot controller that this one looks like it's probably going to be, and I'd have to put a magnet on it to tell you for sure. So this one is going to be an all metal foot controller. Earlier in the phase of production, late 1960s, early 1970s, after it was introduced in 1968. This one is going to have more plastic with it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not as good in quality. It just means that they made a pivot as they first introduced the machine in 1968, and then they continued to produce the machine because it was so popular. And they eventually changed the style, the design, the engineering of the foot control to be more plastic-based and to have this kind of a tricky, this is part of their trickery. They talk about that magic black box that gives more piercing power down at the needle. This is some of their tricky too, coming up with a foot controller that initially when I take it out of the covering, I'm like, how the heck do you use this thing? Do you slide this off or what? You know, that's why I always say sometimes a teacher, always a student. I'm always learning things and seeing new things for the first time. As many machines as I've touched over more than 2 decades, I still will see something that I've seen for the first time, which kind of makes the job interesting, doesn't it? It makes my process of learning continual, just like you. So you can see how machine makers will pivot and they'll change certain things as their production continues to be ongoing long term. Again, they produced this machine for just shy of 2 decades, the 1200 series, through a lot of different flavors. I think they even had a 1222 SE that followed the E series as well. So, I mean, they loved it so much. The public loved it so much. They continue to produce it, and then they make changes as it continues to be in production. And let's just face it, even great companies like Pfaff, as they continue to migrate further and further into the future, as they were getting into the 1990s, they saw the writing on the wall, didn't they? They saw the writing on the wall that in order to stay profitable, they would finally have to cave in and make certain concessions that other manufacturers had done much earlier on. I mean, look at Kenmore. Kenmore was known as the workhorse machines. They built them like tanks. You'll hear about those vintage Kenmores that weigh about as much as a car. But even Kenmore, going into the 1950s, started to make choices that would ensure their solvency, ensure that they would be able to continue to make a profit, turn a profit. You know what the saying is, if you don't have a margin, you don't have a mission. So you can be passionate about sewing machines and making the best sewing machines in the world, but as costs go up, if you can't maintain a margin, you're going to go out of business. You're not going to have a mission that you can carry forward because you need a margin to have a mission. So Pfaff held out again longer than probably any of the manufacturers out there. Kenmore and other manufacturers caved in decades earlier. Pfaff stuck it out all the way into the 1990s. So even a decade or so after Joelle's mom would have bought this machine in the 1980s, Pfaff was still trying to maintain production as long as possible over in Western Germany to ensure, without a doubt, that they would be able to preserve and protect their reputation and the quality standards that everyone had come to expect from this great company. So back in the 1980s, maybe they started to make, I'm speculating, so don't send me a nasty note, don't hate me. Even back in the 1980s, as they were starting to begin to acknowledge we need to have a margin to maintain our mission. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they pivoted from an all metal foot controller to a plastic foot controller. Let's just face it, plastic is cheaper or more affordable. Plastic is more affordable than metal. So, yeah, difference, changes, preserving and protecting, to have that margin, to have a mission, right? Yeah. You got to do it. You got to do it. All right, let me move this out of the way. Well, you can see these are interchangeable. I didn't show that to you, I don't think. These are interchangeable. Same plug-in style here. Yeah. Only difference is the center one here is on, is it on mine? Yeah, it's on mine. The center one here is a round point instead of a square point like on Joelle's. Well, for all practical purposes, you could plug either one of these foot controllers into either machine, and it's going to give you maximum output of the motor without that foot controller overheating. So, yeah. All right, let me set that down. Let me move this one out of the way. All right, let's keep working on this. And I think my little cut finally stopped bleeding. But that's the weird thing. If you've ever lived in a cold climate, you can cut yourself almost on air. And in the wintertime, the skin is just drier. It's more fragile. And all of a sudden, you can bump against, it seems like nothing. And your finger, your hand, or whatever will start bleeding. So, yeah. All right, let's pull the rest of these out. And again, I'm not looking at the live chat, so if anyone has a question or comment directly for me, text it or call in, and I'll put you on speakerphone so everyone can hear your question or your comment. But otherwise, you've got the resource of my incredible leadership team. So please go to them first confidently. They're very knowledgeable, very passionate, and they're very much wanting to help in any way they can during these live streams. So, don't feel like you need to reach out to me. They're a great resource. They're a great resource. All right. I'm starting to stutter. I better drink some Diet Coke here. All right. Quick vote. As I turn this around, quick vote. Are you a Coke drinker or are you a Pepsi drinker? Or maybe you're an RC drinker. But if you're, let's just type in the live chat real quick if you like Diet Coke or if you like Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, or if you can swing either way. Just curious. All right. Oh, that hits the spot. I started out being a Pepsi drinker because some of you know this about me in my professional career before I jumped into vintage sewing machines about 22 years ago. I worked for Pepsi, and I worked with their restaurant division. I was helping them open Hot and Now's, which is like a Riley's Checkers type double drive-through restaurant, real small little restaurant. And I worked with KFC's and Taco Bell's and Pizza Huts and all that sort of thing. And so I had to be, based on the expectations of my bosses, if we went to like a Brewers game or some event where we were together, you better never, ever, ever, ever think about ordering a Coke. If that's all they have on the menu, guess what? You're not drinking soda at that event. So, yeah, I mean, that's just the way it goes, isn't it? Devotion to a brand. Kind of like the people that make sewing machines. You almost wonder if people that are in the higher ranks will shake their finger at them if they reveal that they bought another type of sewing machine other than the one that they're manufacturing. Yeah, loyalty to brand, right? Loyalty to brand. Susie's back. We had Emma gone for a little while. We had Susie gone for a little while. I don't know if it's internet issues or other things that are pulling some of our leaders away, but that's why it's such a blessing to have more than one leader at a live stream. In case one has to step away, I still have someone that's available to help our family and to monitor things instead of just having one leader. And if they're gone, I'm on my own and I can miss all kinds of things because I'm not focused on the live chat, right? All right. I'm just going to give you an idea. I'm going to see if I hope I don't kill the stream here. Look at that pile of noodles over there on the ground. Gives you an idea of how seriously Joelle takes packing when you're looking at a pile of noodles like that fit inside of this tote to ensure that this machine is protected and preserved. And then on the bottom of here, you may not be able to see it unless I tilt it. On the bottom of here as well, she's got a thick layer, probably almost 2 inches thick, of pool noodles on the bottom underneath the machine as well, along with it being bubble wrapped to make sure that as it's bouncing along, and again, if someone cuts themselves on one of those little zip ties and they get mad at this package and they toss it on the floor, she's got about this much thickness on the bottom, protecting this machine against a hard hit on the bottom as well. All right, I'm going to try to get underneath the bottom of this and lift it out. Set it off to the side here. Again, kind of show you the bottom of here, what the bottom of the box looks like. That's a lot of protection. You look at the thickness of these. Almost created like a little raft of these on the bottom, so that machine coming those 2,100 miles from Bakersfield, California to Oconto, Wisconsin would have a real cushy ride with these pool noodles. And I would love to take credit for, incorporating pool noodles into the packing process. I've innovated some of the approaches that I've used of actually attaching these to the bottom of the cocoon, as some of you have seen on Facebook. But I was not the originator of this. I want to say it was probably Emma that would have sent something to the workshop and used an approach like this of pool noodles incorporated with the machine that she sent as an extra safeguard to some of the more sensitive areas of the machine as well. But again, when you have a great idea, it's like the Swedish people coming up with that improved seatbelt. Instead of trying to profit from it, they gave it away free. That 3-point seatbelt that's in all cars today still. They gave that away free by having an open patent instead of people having to pay them to use the idea. Great ideas should be given away for free, I think, whenever possible. There's certain exceptions to that rule, but this is another innovation here, having kind of a raft style design on the bottom as an extra safeguard. Very cool. Very, very clever. Very clever. Joelle just typed something. I couldn't quite read what she wrote, but she wrote something about losing grip or something. So, yeah, it's definitely a great idea. Definitely a great idea. I'm just looking at the live chat real quick, y'all. I'll wipe my glasses off, that is. Yeah. You know what? Al Koss is not alone. Al Koss goes, "Hey, my weakness is coffee." You know what? I know a lot of people that need their cup of coffee in the morning or cups of coffee in the morning. So you're not alone. You're not alone. Yeah, and Joelle is saying, "Hey, the raft idea might be, I talk about Kanai. A Kanai principle is something that I was introduced to when I was working with Pepsi back in the day. Constant and never-ending improvement. Maybe the raft idea on the bottom would afford even better protection. Or maybe the raft idea with some pool noodles kind of cut in half, mounted to the bottom of the packing material, floating on top of that raft. Maybe that would be even a better approach for ensuring that protection on the bottom of the machine as well when it's being transported. You know what I mean? So I might have to steal Joelle's idea, and I'll continue to attach them to the bottom of the cocoon. Because, like I say, you always want to anchor everything to everything else to make it a single unit. You don't want to have things just kind of loosey goosey. I receive machines at the workshop all the time where they wrap it in bubble wrap, but they don't anchor it down. So it doesn't afford the same level of protection to that machine that it would if they took the time to use strap wrap and anchor it down. But along with putting the noodles on the bottom and anchoring it to the cocoon, maybe I'll start adding. I usually do it in the form of packing peanuts, but maybe I'll start creating my own little raft on the bottom to put that cocoon on the top of, and then it'll create even additional barrier of protection. See how we can continue to learn from each other? We continue to learn from each other. We continue to improve the process, and then we share it with the world so that people around the world are saying, yeah, I thought that packing process was as good as it could be. It's an amazing packing process that Scott came up with, but because he's open to feedback and he's open to new ideas, it's gotten even better because of people like Emma and because of people like Joelle and others that have shipped machines with certain nuances to the packing method. And then all of a sudden we incorporate that nuance and what we thought was as good as it could be. Because you know what? We've shipped machines to Japan, to Switzerland, to Germany, to Australia, and they've all arrived without any damage, which is amazing considering the distance. Some of the traveling distance that some of my machines have gone has been almost 10,000 miles. But it doesn't mean that we've reached the milestone of making it as good as it can be because of great innovators like Emma, great innovators like Joelle, and others that have said, hey, this is what I did. What do you think? I think it's brilliant. And I think everyone will probably adopt some of these new ideas that these brilliant fellow teachers and fellow students have introduced to me that I can introduce to you as we do unboxings like this. And then everyone will steal the idea. And wow, why not keep our vintage sewing machines safe, right? Keep them safe. All right, let's get into this and take a look at this 1222E from the 1980s. From the 1980s. notice again that Joelle is not just using the outside shell of the tote as added protection. She's not only building a field of packing noodles around this machine, but she's also targeting areas on the machine that are more sensitive, that are more prone to get damaged. And she's adding another layer of protection, as I've suggested in some of my live streams and some of my packing videos. So, it just shows the level of care and concern that an owner has for a machine when they go to this level of packing. They don't cut corners. They do it right. And they raise that bar of likelihood that that machine is going to arrive without a scratch, even though it's traveled about 2,100 miles. So again, a very good job on Joelle's part in packing this machine. Extra bumper here of a pool noodle on the front. Wait, I've got it turned around. Let me orientate this machine. There we go. So extra padding here over some of the more sensitive areas, padding over here near the front of the machine and upper tension, balance wheel. All right, I'm gonna get off this. This is like this. We should call this onion packing, all the layers of an onion. And we're getting off several layers of the onion right here. Looks like probably, let's see, one. That's the same one, I think. 2, 3, about 4 or 5 layers of the onion packing already. We've got additional padding here along with supplemental padding as well for this machine. I wish every eBay seller, every Etsy seller, every Pinterest seller, and any of those other platforms that are crafty based where people will market and sell sewing machines, I wish all of them were required to watch our packing videos so that they could realize how insufficiently they're packing the sewing machines that they're sending to people that people are hoping will arrive undamaged. But in many instances, and I'm sure some of you experienced this as well, you'll have such a sense of excitement as you're following the tracking and you're watching that machine get closer and closer and closer, only to have the wind taken out of your sails as you go into that unpacking process, and you find that the machine has suffered serious damage because they haven't taken any of the precautions that we recommend, that I recommend, that Joelle and Emma and others have highlighted through their packing methods. They do it cheap. They do it quick. They don't, sometimes they just don't care because they know that, there's insurance involved, and that person on the other end that's expecting a working machine, an undamaged machine, then has to spend hours on the phone. If any of you have ever tried to file a claim, if something arrives damaged, it can be a nightmare. It can be a nightmare as you're trying to stay on the phone and you're shifted from one person to another and you're on hold. Avoid all of that headache and do it right the first time, right? Do it right the first time. Why wouldn't you? I mean, that's the way everyone should do it. You see more supplemental padding along the free arm here as well on the back of the machine. And again, if when a machine is being transported, it's getting bounced around and shifted quite a bit. And while the bubble wrap being stretched against the body of the machine is going to hold this fairly good in place, I would recommend, maybe again, we're committed to constantly improving things. I would recommend probably just putting a tiny little piece of blue painter's tape to hold this in place. And then along with the natural tension of that bubble wrap and the stretch wrap pressing against this, it's just going to make even more likely, it's going to make it more likely that this is not going to somehow work its way loose or shift in some way underneath if for some reason, it takes a big hit or it's jostled around a lot. So what I do with supplemental padding like this is I'll anchor it in place with just a little bit of blue acid-free painter's tape. And then I'll put that stretch wrap over the top of it as the inside shell, then goes bubble wrap, then goes more stretch wrap to create those multiple layers of protection. And then this is being held in place not just by the tension of the outer layers, but it also has that extra assurance of just a little bit of painter's tape on there to hold it in position so it doesn't somehow work its way loose as it's getting jostled and banged around quite a bit in shipping. So just a thought to keep that more in place. Pull that down a little bit. You see, I just kind of took that tension off, and this was some of that supplemental padding, and it kind of just dropped down. So, yeah, use that extra little piece of painter's tape and anchor it in place, and that way you're going to absolutely be assured that extra padding is not going to somehow work its way loose and kind of drop down and then not protect that area that you're most concerned about on the sewing machine. Again, notice that extra layer right here to protect a more sensitive part of the machine. Yeah, it's a great design, but these do get snapped off too. So I'm glad that Joelle provided that extra protection on here for sure. And this also will come off as well. If you want to ship a machine, you can also just take it off. A couple extra little supplemental pieces of protection for the machine. And this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because I know some of you will watch these live streams because they're family friendly. You'll watch it with your children, with your grandchildren. Susie had brought that to my attention at one of the last live streams that one of the folks, and I don't remember who it was, but they had shared that they were watching the live stream, I believe, with their grandchildren. And Susie can clarify if I'm getting that wrong. I know there were children watching it with them. I know if it was their children or grandchildren. But this is the Pfaff 1222 from the original 1200 class series introduced in 1968. This one, again, I believe Joelle said early 1980s is when her mom bought this incredible machine. Again, a machine that was way, way ahead of its time in the 1960s. And they just continued to improve on it, didn't they? As they continue to run with this same class series of the 1200 and add certain different features to it, changes, upgrades, whatever it was that they decided to do with it. And you can see those same built-in stitches here underneath this little cover. And again, while they made certain changes to the foot controller, as I highlighted, they went to a plastic foot controller versus a metal one. They still came up with a very solid design on the machine, where the core machine, the machine head, why is it not magnetized? Except for right there. What do you think this machine is made out of? We're not getting a magnetic response. What do you think this machine is made out of? And don't say bubble gum. That's not right. Even into the 1980s. Quality German engineering. Some plastic that they were introducing. Part of the cam stack here is a Teflon plastic type material. I'll be curious if we look at my 1222, does it have this same plastic polymer type replacement versus some of the machines we've looked at that will have metal in lieu of this? Maybe this was the way Pfaff did it, even when this machine was introduced back in the early 19s or back in the mid 1960s, 1968. Here's something rolling around in there. Can you hear that on the camera? There's something in there. Joelle, drop something inside of here that I'm going to find. I hear something rattling around in there. I'll find out what it is when I start to dig into this machine. I'll find it. I will. So really quite a magnificent machine. Let me kind of turn it around for you a little bit as well. I'll back it up a little bit also, so you can see it fully in the shot. Oh, I see what it is now. I see what it is that I hear rolling around in there. We're missing our button right there for turning on the power of the machine. It dropped inside, didn't it? It's somewhere in the bottom of the machine right now. It actually, there should be a little button right here. You push, and it ain't there. It ain't there. So it's somewhere in the bottom. Yeah, we'll find it. I'll get it back together. Get it happy again. That's funny. So I'm going to move this one back so it's in the shot. And I think I already turned it around, but I'll turn it around one more time so you can see it from different angles. So let's see if it tells. And this looks like it was serviced at one point out in Bakersfield, California by Fajardo's sewing machines. Fajardo's sewing machines. And this is going to have a 0.95 amp motor. 0.95 amp motor. If I kind of bring it closer to the camera, hopefully you won't be able to see that, but you can see this nomenclature plate, I think. I'm blocking the light from the side now. So it has almost a full amp of power, and it's going to peak at probably right about at 1 amp. So it's going to have a lot of gusto. Then you can see they also have the cleated design on this one as well. It's a single cleated belt instead of like the one that belongs to Neil and to Scott that's going to be heading back out to Oregon, the 130-6 that I showed you at the beginning of the live stream that was right in the middle, the black one. That 130-6 has the same style cleated belt like you can see right here, but it's going to have two belts side by side on the 130-6 just because of the design of the machine and the way they've set it up. So let's do this. Let's grab that other 1222. Just out of curiosity, we're going to put Joelle's prominently towards the front. I'm going to put it like right about there. Maybe I can angle a little bit more or angle it like that or something. I'll put it like that for right now. Let me grab the other 1222. We'll pull the top off. See if they did any engineering pivots as far as how they made the machine, their choice of materials from the 1960s going to the 1980s. We're talking, what did I say, around from 1968 to the early 1980s is a little bit more than a decade. So as they shifted away from the all metal foot controller to this, did they make any other pivots as they were changing the engineering and design? And some might argue they were starting to look at adjusting their quality standards just slightly to accommodate a larger margin so that they could continue their mission. I think it's a fair argument that some people would make with a lot of the sewing machine companies. As costs went up, they had to look at that margin, and if they wanted to continue the mission, they had to make certain pivots while trying to maintain the quality standards to the degree that they could while still making a profit at the same time. Hopefully that's a fair thing to say. If anyone thinks it's not fair, you can send me a nasty note. All right, let me grab that other 1222 and see what we see. So this is the other 1222 right here. Yeah, you can kind of see it in the shot, I think. I'll move Joelle's a little bit more closer to the camera. Move this one a little bit closer to Joelle's machine. See if we can get that. I'm going to put her lid on the other side so I don't make a mistake of putting the wrong lid back on the wrong machine. So this is mine. I'm going to pull that off. And you can see they're pretty much, I don't know if you can see that in the shot or not. I'm going to turn it towards the camera a little bit. Other than the color of the cam stack, you can see that they're going to have the same general components. They didn't all of a sudden pivot away and say we're going to use cheaper materials. Other than the color of the cam stack, they pretty much stuck with the same thing. The quality of the engineering looks like it was maintained even over the course of the production for the 1222. And that's a real good thing, isn't it? It's a real good thing when they have the opportunity to try to increase that margin, but they hold out and they say, we're going to maintain our standards. We're going to use the same caliber of cleated belt. We're going to use the same caliber of cam type components. And the cam stack itself is going to be also made out of a resilient type polymer material, just like they did with Singer. Think about a lot of the components on the Singer sewing machines that they moved away from metal and they went to a polymer type material, and it was very long lasting. It was very, very durable. So I think there's arguments to be made. There's arguments to be made that you can start to make that pivot so you have a margin for the mission, but you can also make choices that are going to try to preserve and protect the integrity of that brand and the quality standards of that brand so that people know whether you bought a Pfaff 1200 series machine when it first was introduced in 1968, or if you bought one much later on in the early 1980s like Joelle's mom did, you're still going to have the assurance of a machine that has those Western Germany quality standards that everyone has come to not just count on, but they've come to expect it. They've come to expect it. And that sounded like a text message from Emma, so she must be trying to bring my attention to something. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. I wasn't looking at the live chat, so Emma brought it to my attention that Joelle stated that the cam stack was replaced. So this part right here is a replacement part. Again, I haven't seen every single machine in the world, although it sometimes seems like I have. So this would have been an aftermarket replacement because these are known to crack. They will crack over time. So thank you, Emma, for bringing that to my attention. Cool. All right. Well, that's about all I have that I wanted to accomplish during the live stream. And it's kind of fun to look at these two machines side by side. And if you look at them comparatively, I don't know if Joelle had spoken to having this machine in the family so long, if there were certain features or benefits to the 1222E over the standard 1222 that I have here. But at a glance, they look like they're virtually identical, don't they? Let's see if I can move Joelle's this way a little bit. Kind of push Alberto's sewing machine thing to the side, bring this one out a little bit. But if you look at them comparatively, they sure look like they're brothers from the same mother, don't they? Or sisters from the same mother. They certainly do. They look virtually identical with the control layout and everything, other than the fact that this one is labeled 1222E and this one is just a 1222. But I'm sure that they added something to it. And as I start to dig into this 1222E a little bit more, hopefully at the actual live stream when I present the machine, everything is done. I'll be able to highlight the subtle nuances between the 1222E from the 1980s and this 1222 that would have come out in the late 1960s, early 1970s. Yeah, but they're fabulous machines, aren't they? And you might remember I have a special little chart that allows me to use combo stitches as well, where you'll push down multiple buttons at the same time. And that's something that is not commonly known by most owners. Most owners look at this simple selection of these 10 different buttons that can be pushed, and they think that many of them think that that's the maximum of what their 1222E or their 1222 can do. That's the furthest thing from the truth. When you start combining buttons based on this chart that I have, it opens up a world of decorative embroidery, ornamental type stitching that many of these owners may have never known were possible with their machine. And I highlighted that, if you remember that live stream video that I did on that other, I think it was a 1222, on that other machine similar to these two, where I highlighted those hidden secrets of the machine and what it's capable of doing. So, and that's how we learn, isn't it? That's how we learn. You noticed initially when I took this foot controller out, for a moment I was puzzled as to how do you use this silly thing? And then we discovered, you just push down. I orientate it the right way. Just push down and just use it like that. But that's the key of wisdom, isn't it? I think it is. You recognize you don't have all the answers, and you can always learn, and you can learn from anyone. It doesn't matter if I have a YouTube channel following and 150,000 people a month come to this channel and watch it. We have almost 3 million visitors that have come to this channel since it was established. That doesn't mean a hill of beans if you think you have all the answers. So if you ever go to a YouTube channel, if you ever go to a Facebook live post or whatever they call them, and that presenter tries to come across like they have all the answers, I would strongly encourage you to click away from that, because the true sign of someone that's an expert in their field is that they're willing to listen, they're willing to learn, and they're willing to celebrate the knowledge of other people that have other experiences. And we can all take that knowledge collectively and take it out to all the ends of the earth to make other people wiser. Yeah, something like that. All right, let me ring the bell. I haven't done that for a long time. And I will leave the live stream running for a little bit. And I'm grateful to say that maybe YouTube has addressed the glitch, maybe, because we haven't had a black screen the entire live stream. And I have no idea how long we've been running. 2 hours and 15 minutes. 2 hours and 15 minutes. So thank you again to Joelle and her family. Thank you again to Joelle and her family for sending this incredible machine, and for pooling your resources together to do it as a family. I get restorations all the time from all over the place, and machines that arrive from all around the world. And sometimes it's just one person that has that passion point for that particular machine. Here we have an entire family out in Bakersfield, California, that has rallied around this machine that belonged to Joelle's mom and that Joelle learned to sew on. I don't know how to say it other than how cool is that? How cool is that to have a family rally around a sewing machine to make this project possible? So again, thank you to all of Joelle's family members that stepped alongside of her to make this project possible. And soon, not right away, soon I hope to get this on the workbench. And then sometime out in the future, I'll be presenting this on a live stream similar to this. And you can reflect back to this live stream, hopefully, when we unveil this mystery machine during the unboxing. And you can say, hey, I remember when he pulled it out of there. That button was missing off the front of the machine. There was a hole in there. We could hear it rattling around inside of the machine, and now it's back. How did that happen? Workshop magic. So yeah, I mean, it'll be a lot of fun, and especially knowing that Joelle's entire family has rallied around this single machine. So anyway, God bless you guys. Wrap up your live chat soon. I'll put out my little timer by Joelle's machine so you can see the countdown officially, and then I'll wrap up this live stream. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And again, please, 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 please remember that on Tuesday, barring something unforeseen on Tuesday morning around 9:30 Central Time, I will either be hand turning this or I will have it connected to a Husqvarna base like I've done with the light industrial machines, and we'll be stitching with this really cool New England Queen rotary machine that's going to be heading back to Georgia to become a family heirloom. So don't miss this either. Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. God bless. And thank you so much to the moderating leadership team for doing such a brilliant job of taking care of the family and minding the store while I was busy over here, blah, blah, blah. So take care, everybody. Hope to see you Tuesday morning. All right, let's put the correct lid back on. Let's do that. This is the correct lid. This is the correct lid. If I put it the right way, that is. Yeah, put Joelle's like that. I'll put this one like that so everyone can see both at the same time. That's kind of fun, isn't it? Yeah, boy, they look like identical brothers, don't they? Or identical sisters. Everything about the machine looks pretty much the same. Yeah. Well, there you go. Cool. All right, let me get my countdown set up. We will wrap this live stream up. And I didn't specifically mention it during the live stream, but I acknowledge the people that I tried to acknowledge all the people that stepped into the live chat. But if I missed anyone, I know that the leaders made you feel welcome. So I don't worry about that. So just know that their greeting and their welcome is my welcome. And the same thing for the folks that are in the shadows that did not step into the live chat. Know that we are so grateful to have you here. We are so grateful. Yep, there I am. We're so grateful to have you here at this live stream. If you're not ready to step into the live chat, don't worry about it. A lot of our folks, including some of the leaders, they lingered in the shadows for a very, very long time before they ever stepped out and became engaged in the live chat and eventually stepping up to a leadership role as a moderator on the channel. So take your time. We're not in a rush. But once you decide you're comfortable and stepping out into the live chat, we are going to be so excited to meet you and to be able to learn whatever you're willing to share with us, a little bit more about you, maybe what state you're from, and what kind of machines you have, and what you love about this channel. Because, I mean, that's really what it is. It's a family. It's a family coming together and celebrating vintage sewing machines and celebrating the sharing of knowledge back and forth, right? The sharing of knowledge back and forth, and then taking that knowledge out into the world. Whether you're like Ria in Holland that just got one of Susie's amazing hats, or whether you're like, Tadal, I believe over in Germany, wherever you are in the world, you've got an opportunity to gather under the single cow country banner, collect those little nuggets of wisdom that I share sometimes and others share with us, and then go out there and give it away free. Go out there and give it away free. And it makes our community so much better and so much stronger, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. God bless you guys. I'm going to aim back at our star of this unboxing. That is Joelle's incredible 1222E from the early 1980s. Okay. All right. God bless. All right. Let me get my little timer set up. Kind of a silly little thing I do, I know, but that way y'all know when it's officially ending. Timer, 60 seconds. No, not 57 minutes. 60 seconds. I guess we'll have to be happy with 59 seconds. Hold on a second. I did that wrong. Oh, these smartphones are definitely smarter than us. I think they are. All right, I almost got it. There we go, finally. So right over by Joelle's machine. Hopefully you can see it there too. Almost can see it there. Oh, heck, I'll just hold it. Hold it up a little bit higher so y'all can see it. 38 seconds. "25 seconds. And again, the live chat will be active for a little bit after I end the live stream. So if you're in the middle of a chat, you'll have a little bit of time before it times out. All right, here we go. 5 seconds almost. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I love that music. I love that music. See you guys. God bless. Hope I see you Tuesday morning.